Well, there's no substitute for looking at raw data. Looking at the raw data can reveal insights that you cannot get in any other way. Secondly, it can also help in building hypothesis seeds that may grow into ideas on how to better pre-process and handle the data for subsequent machine learning tasks, thereby improving the predictive power of the model so developed. We start with importing the necessary libraries required in the video series, namely pandas, numpy, matplotlib, and seaborn, and then load the data through the pd.read_csv command. Pandas and numpys are very important libraries used for data wrangling and manipulation. Matplotlib and seaborn are data visualization libraries. We load the dataset diabetes.csv as an object and name it as data. This operation is done using pd.read_csv command from pandas. We then use the head bracket 6 command to eyeball the first 6 observations. We can also use the command data.tail to eyeball the last 10 observations, or use the command data.ilog square brackets to eyeball any specific sets of rows and columns. Please refer to the additional code in red. We can clearly see the independent or predictor variables as mentioned earlier, which is 8 predictor variables starting with pregnancies and ending with age, and dependent variable named outcome. Important to understand early on about the number of predictor variables or features represented by the number of columns and observation cases represented by the number of rows, because too many rows an algorithm may take too long to train, too few and perhaps you may not have enough data to train the algorithms, too many features or predictor variables, and some algorithms can be distracted or suffer poor performance due to the curse of dimensionality. We will cover the topic of curse of dimensionality in a subsequent video series. We use the command data.shape to see the dimensions. Here we see that the dataset has 9 columns and 768 rows. Of the 9 columns, 8 are predictor variables and 1 is dependent variable, that is outcome. There are 768 observations or rows. The type of each attribute is important. The dataset can be all of numeric, that is float or integer, or all string, or a combination of numeric and strings. Strings, if any, should be converted to floating point values or integers to represent categorical or ordinal values, because algorithm understand numerical inputs and not string input. Additionally, a numerical value can attain a string type if there are some non-numeric junk values. Let's see how we can perform this in Jupyter Notebook. We will use Python command data.dtypes to understand the data type of each variables. In this case, all are numeric. We can also change the data type using the command data.astype bracket as mentioned. Given that it is a classification problem, therefore it is very important to know early on how balanced the class values are. Highly imbalanced problems are common and may need special handling in the data preparation stage, that is resampling techniques. Let us see how we can perform this in Jupyter Notebook. The group by function groups the classes in the outcome variable and then sums the instances of these classes. We see that it is a binary classification problem with two classes, that is diabetics labeled as 1 and non-diabetes labeled as 0. There seems to be a class imbalance with the number of non-diabetic instances almost double that of diabetic instances. Normally, class imbalances needs to be looked in closely and if required needs to be treated with sampling techniques. We will not consider this now and move ahead with the current class instances. We will discuss how to address class imbalances in subsequent series. We can look into 7 statistical properties for each attribute and they are count, mean, standard deviation, minimum value, 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 75th percentile and maximum value. From this we can understand the range of each attributes, their mean and median, and how is the data distributed and outliers. It will also give us a sense of any erroneous data which might have accidentally creeped into our data set. For example, the age variable cannot have negative values, or uh, it's very unlikely that maximum value will be 150 plus, and so on and so forth. We use the command data.describe to get the statistical summary of all the variables, independent as well as dependent variables. We see from here that the ranges within and across predictor variables varies by a wide margin. For example, the range of predictor variable pregnancies is 0 to 17 with standard deviation of 3.37, whereas the range for predictor variable glucose is 0 to 199. Well, based on the above data, we can infer that this data set needs some pre-processing with respect to feature scaling and so on and so forth. Feature scaling is a technique to standardize the independent variable present in the data in a fixed range. If feature scaling is not done, then certain machine learning algorithms tend to weigh greater values higher and vice versa, regardless of the unit of the values. We'll consider this technique towards the later part of this video. Using the info bracket command, we can get other useful information for each of the variables in the dataset, and most importantly, check for null values. We see that there are 768 entries or observations, and for each of the features, these entries do not include any null values. Therefore, we can safely conclude that this dataset does not have any null values. We can also cross-check this by using the command data.isNull bracket dot sum bracket. Note that if null values are present, then we need to handle them appropriately. That is, either remove them or impute them. Commonly used imputation techniques to replace null values of numerical variables are either with mean or median, and for categorical variables with mode. This technique is part of data wrangling process, which is a separate topic altogether, and there will be a separate video series on data wrangling techniques. Correlation refers to the relationship between two variables and how they may or may not change together and in which direction, negative or positive. The most common method for calculating correlation in numerical data is Pearson's correlation that assumes normal distribution of the attribute involved. A correlation of -1 or +1 shows a full negative or a full positive correlation respectively, whereas a value of 0 shows no correlation at all. So therefore, you will appreciate that the Pearson's correlation coefficient actually varies between -1 to +1, and it's a measure of linear correlation relationship. Some classification algorithms like logistic regression can give poor performance, and if there are highly mutually correlated attributes in the dataset, then it is likely to compromise on the accuracy metrics and other metrics or measurements. Therefore, it is a good idea to review all the pairwise correlation of the attribute in the dataset and, if necessary, either remove them or transform them. You can type the help function in Jupyter Notebook to read more about Pearson's coefficient. As stated earlier, this method is used to find the degree of association between numerical variables, and we will hence use Pearson's coefficient. Note that it varies from -1 to +1. We will use the function core bracket on the pandas data frame to calculate the correlation matrix across all the attributes. The matrix lists all attributes across the top and down the side to give correlation between all pairs of attributes twice because the matrix is symmetrical. You can see that the diagonal line through the matrix from the top left to the bottom right corners of the matrix shows perfect correlation of each attribute with itself and is represented by 1. With respect to our data set, few observations to note is: number 1, glucose has the highest correlation with dependent variable outcome. The correlation coefficient is 0.47 followed by BMI. Blood pressure and skin thickness has the lowest correlation with outcome variable. Amongst the independent variables, age and pregnancies have the highest correlation. Gaussian distribution is the key assumption for many machine learning algorithms. Knowing that an attribute has a skew may allow you to perform data preparation to correct the skews and later improve the accuracy of your models. We know that Gaussian or normal distribution is a symmetrical distribution, and therefore skew refers to a distribution that is shifted in one direction or other, and therefore can be called positive or negative skew distribution. Knowing that an attribute has a skew may allow you to perform certain data transformations to correct the skew and later improve the accuracy of your models. You can calculate the skew of each attribute using the skew bracket function on the pandas data frame. Note that for the symmetrical distribution like normal distribution, the skew is 0 and values closer to 0 shows less skew. Here in this example, we observe that the distribution of insulin has the highest positive skew and the distribution of blood pressure has the highest negative skew. Generally, there are various methods to correct the skews. For example, if the data is right skewed, clustered at lower values, move down the ladder of powers, that is, try square root, cube root, logarithmic, and other transformations. If the data is left skewed, clustered at high values, move up the ladder of powers, that is, cube, square, etc. We will not look at this aspect in the current video and reserve these techniques in subsequent videos. Therefore, summing up so far, we use different techniques to gather insights from the data and therefore understood the data much better. For example, the data set is numeric with no null values, hence it is a clean data set comprising no junk or null values. This is good news as we do not need to do any data wrangling operations to impute or clean null values or remove junk values. The range of attributes are wide and therefore warrants a data scaling technique. And the dataset is imbalanced and certain attributes have a positive and negative distribution.